Next up is Cameron Gray of MindFlash. And he is Vice President of Engineering at MindFlash, and which is a very simple and very effective service to deliver in-house training over the web. He's managed to build an agile process at MindFlash and a team to support it that's incredibly sensitive to user needs and very user-centric in their approaches to design and development. I know Agile is something that many of you have probably run into, been maybe even at odds trying to put together with user experience. And the rest of you probably soon will be if you haven't already. So I'm very pleased to have Cameron here as someone from the engineering side who's going to tell us how to integrate both sides of the house to make it work better for the users. Hi.
Thank you. Yeah, as the engineer invited to speak at the design conference, it's a little nerve-wracking, but then you think, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? It's not like I'm going to have to go on stage after Jeff Veen or anything. So here we are. But yeah, as Brandon said, in the spirit of Alexa's talk, the sort of simple, concrete vision for MindFlash is we're like base camp for training. Since I am the engineer, I'd like to start with a disclaimer. Very important. And I'm here to talk about agile development, particularly how it applies to UX. And just to sort of quick level set, how many people here are doing agile at their companies, organizations? Great. I will spare you all my 30-second treatise on agile and why it's so great. Agile was really created as a response to our good friend Waterfall, which is a way that we've been building software since we've been building software. Waterfall, in my opinion, is not a particularly great process for doing user experience design, and I'm just going to touch quickly on why I think that is. Waterfall really creates this huge gap between designers and customers and end users. And there's just this layers of development and QA and customer service, and it's too far apart. Waterfall also requires the designer to come up with complete designs up front. And there's very few checkpoints along the way, and designers have to think of every single detail in advance. Waterfall involves long periods of time between design being created and it actually getting in the hands of customers. And you're all experienced designers. I think you understand that designs get stale over time. And often those designs fail to meet the needs of the customers when they're finally delivered. And the really horrible thing about Waterfall, if they're actually delivered. Waterfall removes the designer from the development process, which is terrible because what happens as design evolves and as the designs evolve towards creation and they get built, compromises have to be made. But in Waterfall, those compromises aren't made by the designers. They're made by engineers, they're made by product managers, and oftentimes what you're compromising is the user experience. And that leads us to Agile. And Agile is really an attempt to create a conversation between designers, developers, and ultimately customers and end users. Customers inform designers through research and through feedback systems, and designers get to speak back to the customers by constantly and rapidly delivering them improved experiences through improved products. And really good Agile teams involve everyone in this conversation. You're doing research workshops, and you're giving everybody in your organization access to direct and distilled customer feedback. And Agile allows the designer to be part of the process of building the product. Design and development are processes that inform each other, and they're allowed to evolve together in Agile. So how do you do it? How do you put Agile and UX together? I think first, there's a couple of things we need to agree on. I don't think anybody here is necessarily going to disagree with this. This is something I think is really important, which is that you can't just pay user experience design lip service. It's something that you need to take a really solid investment in. And I'll tell you a little bit about what that means to me. Again, I'm not a designer. But I think it means you have to create an environment where user experience matters to every single person in your organization. And good design and good experience is the primary motivation in the products that you build. I also think it means that every feature you build, every product you build, need to be evaluated in the context of your complete customer experience. One of the big themes, I think, from MX last year. And that customer experience is about more than product interactions. and that you need to consider customer interactions outside of just your products in everything you design. If this guy works for you, great. You're not me. For the rest of us, UX is not about the designer being the source of all wisdom and somebody who just produces magical designs from thin air. Good UX shops know that design's a collaborative process. Other big thing about good UX shops is they realize that research is critical, but they don't let themselves get fooled into user-led design. Research does not mean you build everything your customers tell you they want. It means research findings must be distilled. You need to treat creating a bad experience in the same way you treat introducing a nasty bug. Bad UX is a defect, and your development and QA teams need to treat it as such. All product development involves negotiation, but you can't negotiate on delivering a good experience. You have to be honest about what is really positively and negatively impacting the customer experience, but you always have to stay focused on delivering a good one. In order to have a dialogue with your customers, you've got to be open and honest with them. And it could be your Twitter account, it could be customer forums, company blogs, regular outbound communications. But these are all parts of creating a good user experience. And if you're doing these things and all the others I mentioned, I think, in my opinion, you're focused on doing UX and you're not half-assing UX. So, Agile. Same story. Can't half-ass Agile. Every Agile team has a different approach, and the first thing you learn when you do Agile development is that you have to be agile about your Agile process. That being said, if you bend the rules too much, things are going to fall apart on you very quickly. So Agile has this concept of sprints. By the way, my team does Scrum, which is a sort of a very particular implementation of Agile. It's become a little bit synonymous with Agile because it's kind of the most popular, but it's by no means the only one. So I sort of interchange Scrum and Agile a lot, so forgive me for that. But Agile is about doing things in a time box. Setting a sprint, it has a begin date, and it has an end date. Set your sprint length to whatever is right for you. People will tell you, oh, the industry is moving to 2-week sprints. The industry does what they do. Do what's right for your team. And you may find that your sprint length is going to change over time, and that's fine. But once you start a sprint, that time box should never slip. It always has an end date. User stories. This is what we got rid of functional specs and all these sort of horrible bullet-pointed items and things like that, and we've created user stories. And every user story needs to pass what's called the invest test. So a user story needs to be independent. So that means it needs to stand by itself. It can't be tied to 5 or 6 other user stories. It needs to be negotiable. You're going to put a user story in front of a team, and they're going to ask questions, and you're going to work something out. It's going to evolve. Every user story, and this is where I really think UX fits into it, has to deliver customer value. User stories need to be written in such a way that your team can estimate in short order roughly how much effort they're going to take. User stories need to be sized appropriately, which simply means they just can't be giant things that are too hard for anybody to sort of wrap their minds around. And finally, they need to have enough information that they can be testable. Every Agile team should have a definition of done. Your definition of done should evolve over time, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you should review it with your team at the beginning of every sprint, and you should evaluate every story you deliver against what your team's definition of done is. If you're doing Scrum, have it stand up every single day. Not, we do Scrum, but we meet every Thursday. No. Every single day. Keep it to a set time limit, and Scrums are very simple. Everybody stands up. What did I do yesterday? What am I going to do today? And do I have anything in my way? And that's it. And it's really an opportunity for the team to report to themselves, not to the managers. Have a sprint retrospective every sprint. This is where you get to be agile about your Agile process. And the thing with the sprint retrospective is everybody in the team gets to go around and they talk about what the team did well, what the team did better, could do better. As a manager, this is your opportunity to let the team speak. This is not a time for a management lecture. Encourage your entire organization to come and observe the sprint retrospective. I think you'll learn a lot from that, and I know they will. And review your retrospective notes at the beginning of every sprint. End every sprint with a sprint demo. This is really a chance for your team to show off their work to your entire organization, and it's a really critical part. There's a concept in Scrum which is if you can't feed your team on 2 pizzas, it's probably too big. It's a pretty good rule. You know, you shouldn't have 40, 50-person Scrum teams. People are really afraid of having more than 1 Scrum team or more than 2. You know, Salesforce has like, I don't know, 50 of them. Citrix Online's got 20 or 30 or more. You know, lots of people run enterprise Scrum. It's totally manageable. Break your teams up, keep them small. You'll find it's much more effective. And finally, Agile's about complete internal transparency. Invite your entire company to attend any Agile meeting they want. Whether it's daily stand-ups, demo, retrospective, creating an environment of transparency will make you a strong advocate for your Agile process, and it will really help the company buy into it. If you can do all this and all the other things I mentioned, you're ready to really combine Agile and UX, and you're ready to do what we at MindFlash call going full ass. So what does this mean to me? It means that we're committed to delivering incremental value to our customers. We're not about dropping giant surprises on anybody. It's not big, wow, check it out. It's very small improvements in the customer experience every single sprint. And you've got to be willing to let your best shot go out. Forward momentum has got to be your top priority. It also means that you're not doing research and walking away from it. You can't just do some generative research and say, okay, that's great. I know everything I need to know about my customers. I'm ready to move on. You're constantly reaching out to your customers and evaluating if you really are creating an incrementally better experience. It means your designers have to be honest about what really impacts the customer experience. Just like your developers have to be honest about what's really necessary in the code and what really is or is not hard to develop. This one's a little bit touchy, but it's how I feel. I think you need to end every sprint with something in the hands of customers. So in our case, we release every single sprint. That may not be feasible for you. You're at NASA, I get it. There's no way you're gonna necessarily be able to ship at the end of every sprint. But, that's awesome if you do. Certainly for us in the early stages, that was a little bit tough. But you could be doing a usability session, you could be doing some research, but without the reality that what you're building is about to be in front of somebody outside of your organization, the time box really loses meaning. So, unlike our friend here, Agile is not going to save the world. It's not the panacea. It's not everything. And it's not right for every product. It's not right for every company. Agile will not make bad design good. Agile does not create a process for creating design. It's a process for making sure design gets built. Agile will not make bad people good. If anything, Agile is going to highlight your weakest team members because no one can hide in a Scrum team. And Agile's not a prescription for people management. That is something you need to handle outside of this process. If you have communication problems in your team now, things are going to get much, much worse with Agile. Agile demands that your team members be able to communicate honestly and effectively. If you're in a market where your customer feedback is spotty or unhelpful, or if you have an acrimonious relationship with your customers, you're not going to get the information you need to create a good user experience. If you can't get stakeholder buy-in for your Agile process, you will not succeed. And you are going to need, in my experience, at least 3 sprints to show progress because the first 2 are going to be a little bit bumpy, and you might need more, so you better negotiate that time up front. If you're working on giant, all-encompassing projects where nothing can be delivered or evaluated incrementally, Agile might be hard for you. For us, when we worked on our billing system, which is something that we can't roll out in pieces, we really had a lot of struggles getting that to work inside of our Agile process. Agile's really focused on people being on the team, in every stand-up and able to react to a changing environment. If you work with a lot of outside contractors, this can be challenging. I'm not saying it's impossible. We certainly work with outside contractors all the time. But you need to make sure that your contractors are all at least represented by somebody who's actually on the Scrum team and can establish some form of communication back to the team. During your sprints, developers and QA folks are going to be slamming your product team all the time with questions about how the user story needs to evolve towards a final deliverable product. If your product team's not on the same page, your product's going to be a disaster. And you really need to make sure that your product managers and designers are in agreement about what it means to make a good user experience. A product backlog, the prioritized list that all Agile teams operate off of, is not a product roadmap. And your product and design teams need to maintain a product roadmap outside of your Agile process. Since you can't extend the sprint time box, you don't ever want to make your sprints longer, just because you didn't have everything ready. If a user story really blows up on you, which could be for any number of reasons, it could be because you learned something really important that made you decide you want to move in a different direction. Really, your only recourse is to push that story out of the sprint. And once a story is pushed out, if it remains a top priority for you, odds are you're going to see it the next sprint because it's going to stay in the top of the backlog. And at MindFlash, we call those sprint hangovers. And hangovers aren't necessarily bad, but just like real hangovers, if you find you're having a lot of them, it's probably a sign of a bigger problem. To borrow a phrase from my good friends here at Adaptive Path, group research and design is great, and it's a really critical part of our culture, but at some point you have to turn the corner and start designing and building solutions. If you're going to involve everyone in your organization in creating your user experience, you need to have the people and processes in place to help move things forward. Agile is about getting things in the hands of customers. And while you can't compromise on experience, you do need to know when you're just adding polish and it's time to ship your product. And you can always add a user story later if it turns out that one little piece of polish you were arguing about is the really most important thing. And we've had user stories that are like, I want the buttons to look more like this. And that's OK. If it's a priority, we'll do it. So I want to chat a little bit about sort of the specifics of how we do things at MindFlash. So we do Scrum. I think we've talked about that. It's a very team-focused exercise. We have 3 teams. And yes, we let the teams name themselves. And these are their points boards. We have the Barracuda Corns, the Spartans, and the Fancy Pants. So greatest team names ever, in my opinion. So all 3 teams are made up of a combination of dev, QA, product, and design. We have 20 people in our dev, QA, product, and design group, and they are distributed around the country and the world. About half the team's remote. We operate on a 4-week sprint. Once again, it's the right length for us. We do user stories, and user stories can be recommended by anybody in the company, but they're created by our product team, and they're prioritized by our stakeholders, which is made up of the management team and members of the product design group. And we have 1 backlog, and we prioritize the backlog every single week. We use points-based estimation, which I hope some of you are familiar with. It's a really, really great way to estimate at least software projects. It uses the Fibonacci scale, which really helps separate things into size boxes, really. And everything we estimate is based on prior experience. Engineers inherently estimate things when they do sort of time and task-based estimation in ideal universes where things don't go wrong. But if you base things on things you've built before, you say this feels like that project we did last year, there was a lot of things that went into that project that happened last year, and you're bringing the entirety of that into this estimate. We estimate using a really, really great process called planning poker, which if people have questions, I can get into. I don't have time to cover it here. But every team has a planning poker session every week. It's 1 hour, and we plan 2 to 5 stories per session. And design and QA are present in planning poker. Most stories go through several planning poker sessions, and designs are iterated in between sessions. And this means that planning pokers are a really critical part of our design process. Like I said, daily stand-ups. Every team meets every day for 15 minutes. We're militant about it, and we line the stand-ups one after another, so they can't ever go over. And our remote people call in with either GoToMeeting or Skype. And we have no meetings after 12 p.m. for anybody in Dev or QA. Joel Spolsky, founder of Fogbugs and Stack Overflow, coined this phrase, hallway usability test. Hallways are a really, really critical aspect of how we work at MindFlash. And so for us, what a hallway is anytime a developer has a user story to a point where he actually has a piece of working code that he can show, he can ask anybody in the company to come participate in a hallway, and he literally just sits them down and walks them through it. In our case, we typically are doing it over GoToMeeting or Skype. But we always really try to get designers present, and if we think that a story is really changing, we have a basic rule of 3, which is somebody from QA, dev, and product always has to be there. And this really allows the designers to have a real impact on the story as it's evolving and before it goes to completion. For us, some stories will have several hallways. Any story that's of any reasonable size, for us it's points, anything over sort of 2 or 3 points, always has to have at least one hallway. And we won't accept a story unless it's happened. The final piece of how we do things at MindFlash is that our product and design team is really always working on these 3 tracks. And so the first track is very, very tactical. It's really about the current sprint. So they may be delivering assets or participating in hallways or delivering language to the team. And the second track is about the top items in the backlog. So they might be distilling user feedback or participating in planning poker or producing wireframes or participating in stakeholder prioritization. And then finally is this third track that exists a little bit outside of our Agile process, which is they're working on the roadmap. So they might be doing generative research or doing design strategy. And so that's some of the details of our process and how we do Agile and UX. I hope it's really helpful for some of you, and there's little bits and pieces that might work for you. The one thing I can say is no matter what you do, always go full ass. Thanks.